So Sea Glass, yes. Now it's been out for what, April 25th, did I see was the release date on that?
That's right. Yes,
So do
exactly.
so do the math on this. This is open in April, May, June, July, August, September. About half year it's been out. What would you say is, if you've gotten a sense from fans, etc., is there like a consensus favorite song so far?
Oh my gosh. You know what? I feel like people are kind of pulling between three or four of them. I find that Promise Me has really kind of touched the heartstrings on a lot of parents that are, so connected with their children, and it's like their wish for them for the future. It's that kind of resonates with children of all ages. The only negative comment I got about that was from the single dads who are like, I'm mom and dad in my household, but I can't be singing, I'm more than your mom, I'm your friend. Can we do a karaoke version of it? I'm like, that's a great idea, actually. So I'm thinking about that one. And then Unsung Hero has been like such a strong, it's wonderful to see the response on that one because a lot of women really resonate with that as well. It's sort of like an anthem for us because we are doing everything we can 24/7 to keep these households going. And, all moms are working moms because, everybody's relying on us. It's a thankless job, but we do it because we love, we don't expect a thank you or credit, but it's just so nice to see your kids and your family and your husband happy and healthy and where they're supposed to be. And, so that's really our greatest thank you right there. But it's also to let people know that we are fierce. We women are fierce, but we're also fragile, and try not to forget that. We don't often show that side because we're always in like the survival mode of making it better for everyone else. But there is a vulnerability there that definitely exists in our quiet moments. Line Between, which was an anthem for my dad. It was literally what we lived through at the time and how important it was that he went through a battle and dealing with cancer for the last year of his life in 2018. And I specifically mentioned memories of how important certain points, like certain memories that really kind of shone in that few minutes of song I was able to get out there, like dancing in the kitchen with my mom on Sunday mornings while they were making breakfast and all the road trips and things like that, but also walking through the graveyard and just seeing these headstones of just the death date, the birth date, and just that line between. And for me, the least important things were the birth and the death date. It was that line between that meant everything. It was that person's personality and individuality and every memory you shared with them and the memories before you even existed, in all of these sort of other areas where they reached out and they touched people's lives. And so Line Between seems to resonate with a lot of people because people have lost loved ones close to them. And Sea Glass, I think, that's got to be, I think, probably my favorite because it's that to me is it really showed the parallel of the human condition. That was written during COVID. And when my two children at that point in elementary school were being, first of all, the whole world was thrust into darkness. It wasn't a region, it wasn't a spot on the map, it was the world. And it's a horrible thing, but the thing that we all got out of it was that we all knew what everybody else was going through. So we were in it together. Even though we were separated, we were still in it together. And all of those things that we took for granted, like that we got such positive energy from, like simply hugging another human being was outlawed. And we were in quarantine and living in fear. And, we couldn't get the positive energy from concerts or even go to a restaurant. Like everything stopped to a halt. Looking back on it now, it's sort of like it was a crazy nightmare, that we went through. But for me, I was trying to restore the normalcy in my children's lives, teaching them that life is so much more than just these screens, and everything was on the screen. If you wanted to talk to people, it was on the screen. Entertainment on the screen, education on the screen. I'm like, we got to get out of this house. So we did what we do, which is we go to nature for healing, and we walked along the beach, and on those miles of sand, feeling the sun on our face and the wind in our hair and hearing that ocean out there. And you just feel so good walking. You could still be your 6 feet distance. Not a lot of people out there, but you actually were able to walk out there and get some fresh air and get out of the house. And they came to me and said, "Mom, look what I found." And we held it up to the sun, and it was a shining emerald piece of what was sea glass. And then the next one found a blue piece that looked like a sapphire. And the next one was an amber piece, and it was all illuminated from the sun. And I'm like, these are beautiful. These wound up being our points of joy through a dark time of COVID. And so we would go out every day and look for these beautiful pieces. But in those moments of walking along the beach with my children and finding their joy in their treasure hunts, I realized the human condition was so close to pieces of sea glass where we all break. You know, we shatter, we scatter, we go through terrible things in life. We have loss, we have, things that really affect us deeply, and we break down. And I can't even just say it's one time, it happens multiple times throughout your life. And for me, it was seeing that we were so akin to these pieces where we shatter, we scatter, we get tumbled and tossed around by the ocean or by life. Our edges get softened, sort of like frosted, returned to the same situation. We're different, we're changed, but we're still intrinsically the same. And trying to find those joy, those illuminated pieces within us that will still bring us joy, that will still be the treasures that are within us, even though we've been broken, to still find that strength within ourselves and our joy. We become those pieces of sea glass. And so that for me, the symbolic reason of writing that and how it came out. I know you said choose one, but
Sometimes you can't choose. Oftentimes when I ask somebody that question, be like, okay, it's like you're trying to choose your favorite kid.
Oh gosh,
You can't.
and there are days I can, but
Oh boy.
let's hope they never hear that.
Right.
But no, I tell my kids, I'm like, look, they're so different. Like I've got two. I could never, people say, how many do you have? I'm like, I could never keep up with more than two. As it is, they're going in opposite directions at all times. But I said to them, we're basically like trees, like the roots are your ancestry. The trunk of the tree is our family system. We are strong, we are bonded, we support each other, but they totally go in opposite directions with their branches, So one is totally sports based, the other is total music based. And I'm just fastening my safety belt and trying to keep up with it all the chaos and craziness. So I
Boy.
do what I can to keep it all together.
I can only imagine. I got a 4-year-old at home. My wife and I try to keep up with her as much as possible, and she loves being outside and going to a park every day if she can,
Oh my
at
God.
all times of the year, which is awesome. But that's
Yeah.
one. I can only imagine what two would be like. So,
100%. I hear people say they have three, and I'm just like, I don't even know how that happens. Somebody was like, you throw another burger on the grill. I'm like, I think there's a little more to it than that, but I don't know.
we all make it work somehow, some way, somehow it all works.
Somehow it works, right?
It does. It all comes together. The topic of sea glass in particular, and that kind of continuity that you mentioned. So that ends up as the album title. Did you know the album title first? Did the song inspire that? How did you get to the point of going, we're going to call the project Sea Glass?
Yeah, no, I didn't have a title track for, I didn't have a name of the album. And honestly, someone said to me the other day, an interviewer said, why was it 10 years since your last album was released, your last solo album? And I thought, oh my God, I'm always so in the now of trying to make sure everything is where they need to be and everything, the food is in the fridge and everybody is taken care of and everybody did their doctor's appointments and their homework and run to this place and that, and do work as well. And all moms are working moms, even if you have an external job or not, this is, you're still trying to keep it going. So I didn't realize 10 years had gone by that quickly. But when I looked back at what happened in those past 10 years and why I was so in the moment, because like we said, COVID ate almost 3 years out of everybody's lives, so we were all basically locked away and trying to recover from the fear of that and the mental, process that we had to go through. So that was gone. I lost my dad the year before that. So that was 2018. So that was a hell year dealing with, what he had to go through, which was watching him deteriorate. And he was the rock in my life. When he passed in December 2018. Richie and I went back on the road in 2019, first with Rainbow and then back to back that with our Blackmore's night dates overseas. And 6 months prior to this, so my dad was still around. It was like in October. My son actually saw a spot on my back and he said to me, Mom, there's this thing and I can't see it. It's on my back. So Richie told me, you should probably get that checked out. I went to a dermatologist. He told me it was something, sent me to a surgeon. They bounced me back and forth for 6 months. And then finally, right before we went on the road, Richie said to me, you know what? It's still there. I don't like the way it looks. I'm going to come with you to the dermatologist and I'm going to tell him we need that biopsied. I'm like, all right, so he came with me. And Richie's so funny. He's known for being a musician, but if he was going to be anything else, it would be a doctor. We call him Dr. Blackmore. his all that's in our library, if it's not Renaissance medieval books, it's like medical, PDFs, like all of these things about, physicians reference things, and he's always looking up medical stuff. So like, you can't come into my house and say, I have a headache, can I have an aspirin? He would say, well, where's your headache exactly? Is it throbbing? Is it sharp pains? Are you getting visual disturbances? Is it in the front? It might be sinusitis. I'm like, oh my God, give the person give them an Advil. You're making it worse. But we call him Dr. Blackmore. It's hilarious. So he came with me, and he really got face to face with the dermatologist and said, we really want this biopsied. And the guy said, no, 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 it's fine. It's a sebaceous cyst. It does that. Well, Rich is not used to people telling him no, 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 as I'm sure you've heard. And he said, this is going to be done. So the guy goes, all right, we'll do it just for your peace of mind. So he did it. And then we got on the plane and landed in Denmark, and we're driving to Sweden. And my mom called me and said, you know what, I need you to call me, because she's on my HIPAA form. And I got to the hotel, and she had tears in her eyes, and we FaceTimed, and I thought something was wrong with my kids. And she said the doctor called, and it's cancer. It's sebaceous carcinoma, and it needed to be out like yesterday. These guys were bouncing me back and forth for 6 months. So we had to find a surgeon over there in Germany, and we did in Nuremberg, who basically we scheduled it in between tour dates, where they had to cut open my back and remove this, and they didn't remove down to the margins. And so I had to go back into Sloan when I got back home instantly. They said, let it heal for 4 to 6 weeks, and we have to recut. All of this stuff was going on while we're on the road, and and the doctors are saying, well, now you have to heal. So don't move around too much and try not to sweat. And I'm going, I've got to tell people, get up and clap and get involved. And how am I not supposed to move? Maybe the corset will keep me in place from being on stage. But so there's a lot of tricky things I had to deal with at that time. And obviously, reflected again in Sea Glass, all of these pieces, that are still part of this journey, this medical journey that I'm on as well, and still do to date, keeping on top of everything. But I found that when I had collected these songs over the 10 years, and they were always songs that happened from a very poignant point in my life. And not that you'd know it, I'm not very good at talking, not that you'd know it from this interview. But when it comes to sharing really deep things that are affecting me, I tend to just go into survival mode and kind of distract and figure out what I need to fix, what do I need to do. But I don't really talk about what I'm doing. But what I do to heal myself is I write. And whether it's writing into a journal or writing a song, getting those emotions out from a medium that is not going, if you talk to someone, chances are they're going to feel the need to talk back and try to fix your problem. Sometimes you just need that outlet of getting it out instead of being judged or being told what to do, or what you just have to release, and so that's what I did. And when I wrote these poignant moments, some very deep melancholy moments in there into song, I realized that each one of these songs kind of wound up being their own piece of Sea Glass. And so that led me to maybe making that the title of the whole entire album. Was every song was just as strong to me and just as brilliant and just as illuminating, even though a lot of them did come from a deep, deep place of hurt. And they became my collection of Sea Glass, these illuminated pieces of Sea Glass to give to the world. And I found that a lot of people have resonated so deeply with some of these songs, and it's helped them to heal as well. So once you're so vulnerable and you write these songs from such a deep emotional hurt place, it's a little bit tricky to take those emotions and release them to the world. But once you also find out that people have healed and helped themselves to heal and been on your path and resonated with your words, and you've helped them get to a better place through the songs, that's sort of the light at the end of the tunnel there of that whole entire creative process.
So then continue the analogy, which was the most complex piece of Sea Glass to put together, whether that be in a musical arrangement sense, whether that was channeling the right lyrics to make the message resonate the right way, whatever that may be, which of the tracks had that most characteristic?
Really good question. I think Sea Glass, and probably maybe The Last Goodbye as well. because well, there were times, especially with those two particular songs, I'm not when I write with Blackmore's Night, with my band Blackmore's Night, which has been around for 27 years at this point, it's a long time. Richie will come up usually with the musical arrangements and the whole song really just in musical form, instrumental form. And then he'll call me in and we'll work on the top line. And then I'll go away and like live with that top line and hear what the song wants to be about and sort of channel it and make it into the lyrics you hear. But when I write with my own stuff, it all comes out as one flow. So I start singing the words and the melody line all as one thing, like just channeling it as one piece. Now, the problem with that is that I don't play any instrument proficiently enough to get that across to people so I can get these maddening ideas out of my head and onto something. Like I can tell them what I want, but they can't hear it because it's playing in my head. So on those two specific songs, I know I kind of plunked it out on piano. I'm probably the only person on the planet who doesn't play guitar, but I also feel like I don't need to play guitar because I've got a really good guitarist in the household. So why would I pick it up when he could, I could just go, okay, can you help me out with this? So I did write them on piano and arpeggiated on the piano that I have here. But then I went into the studio with the producer who was working on Blackmore's Night. Now, when we do Blackmore's Night, Richie wants us to start at 3 o'clock for Blackmore's Night. We got to be in the studio at 3 o'clock. He's not in the studio. He's finishing breakfast. But the producer needs to be there at 3 o'clock because he's on musician's hours, which is real. It's like permanent jet lag, I think. It's like being, in Germany mentality, like, as far as time zone is. So I would say to the producer who worked in the house with us, what if we get in, like sneak in at 1 o'clock, and then we can work for 2 hours on my songs. And then at 3 o'clock, we switch right over to Blackmore's Night. So he was willing to do that. But the problem was that he couldn't hear the sounds in my head and he wasn't getting the simplicity of the skeletal tracks sort of demo wise that I put down on the piano. So I had to go to Richie and I said, listen, can you please just play these songs for me on the guitar? So our producer Pat can hear, where we need to go, as far as those songs are. And as soon as he started playing, like Seaglass, one of them, when he started just picking up the guitar and doing the arpeggiated songs that he was doing, the chords, to me, instant visual, it was the ocean. It was the waves on this, that was just kind of crashing on the seashore. And I'm like, oh, yes, that's exactly what I was looking for. And when we're doing my stuff, he goes, okay, did you want it more like this? Do you want it higher up? He's very, like, he'll let me lead him. Not with Blackmore's Night. With Blackmore's Night, he's the captain of the ship and he will lead how he wants the songs to be. And, musical genius, over 60 years in the industry. I get it. I don't mess with that. But when it came to my stuff, I'm like, yeah, if you could play it up here and maybe put a passing chord in, oh, that's it. That's perfect. That's what I needed. So I kind of needed him to be part of those couple of songs. So our producer, Pat, could really kind of visualize where it needed to go at that point. And that really helped me kind of open the floodgates as far as now let's try this other instrumentation and things like that. So because I'm not as proficient on anything, he definitely helped with those two. But then I was able to work with a local producer out here after Pat went back to Florida and I finished the rest of the album and he was Brendan Keenan, his name is, and he's about an hour away from here, and we work in Cove City Studios. And I walked in, and he's like, "Talk to me. What do you feel? What do you hear? How do we make it yours?" And I said, "Yes, this is okay." And he can play guitar and bass and like all of these other things. And it was literally like adding textures or colors to a painting, and we could work together. And he got all of those sounds out of my head, and it was so easy. So but I'd say bringing it way back to the beginning of it, Seaglass and The Last Goodbye were the ones that I kind of needed, that beautiful arpeggiated, guitar sounds that my husband really helped me out with on those and built from there.
Well, on the topic of complexity, I was trying to figure out the time signature and when I want to fly. Yeah. Being like I did. That song drew me in probably more than the other ones in a musical sense. Anyway, I should specify. I did madrigals in high school and in college, madrigal style singing. There's some local Renaissance festivals in the area. So all of that between what Blackmore's Night does and then that song, I'm like, okay, yep, that's right up the alley. And I'm trying to, but is this 9/8 repeated for 27? Is this 8/4 with a 3/4 or 3/8? What's the
Goodness.
time signature in that song?
Yeah. What are you a drummer? Are you like, what do you play something in order to figure all that out?
It's mainly singing. I mean, I'll just do like at home, like a little bit of,
That's
like a little
amazing.
drumming, little piano, little guitar and everything. But
Right.
but there are enough songs, and I think it's because of madrigal singing, because there's enough changing meters. They'll go from 4/4 to 3/4. Here's a random 1/4. Like, why are you what? There's a one. Why did you put that in there? And all of that, and it's tough until you get it locked in, and then it's totally fine. But until you get there,
Oh my God.
um,
So impressed right now, though. Really? I'm so impressed right now.
yeah, it's just all of that, all those numbers going around, and probably doesn't. Well, I would say it doesn't help, but it probably doesn't hurt that I've always liked earlier prog Genesis. I mean, all eras of the band, but the early stuff, of course, it's where you get like 9/8 segment. Well,
Yes.
if you're familiar with early Genesis, you know exactly what I'm talking about.
Yes, actually, it's funny because Richie, well, I know when he talks about like the early Tull days, I remember him saying he had a story for me where he was telling me about, I'm gonna mess this up. I'm not sure if he was talking to Martin Barr. He was talking to somebody, Dave Pegg. Oh, he's gonna kill me. One of the guys. Oh my God. I'm like, can you just write the book? Because I'm not gonna retain like, the information on the stories you tell me. There's so many stories, but I want to get all the facts right. But he told me he was talking to one of the guys in Jethro Tull, and he's like, that Ian, Richard considers Ian Anderson like this incredible musical genius, and he is absolutely. I'm proud to say that he's a friend of ours at this point, all these years down the road. So he's amazing and awesome. And we got him to play Minstrel Play on the flute on our first album, which was perfect. About sort of about the rock and roll Pied Piper, and I'm like, who else could it be? It's got it,
Right.
he's the original rock and roll minstrel, really. But so I remember Richie telling me he was talking to one of the guys in Tull, and he said, how do you remember all of these crazy time signatures that Ian comes up with? Like, how do you know where you are? And he said that the guy he spoke to said, well, you just count two, count everything in two, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. And he's like, oh,
Mm-hmm.
that makes sense. Like that makes everything fit and everything work. With this particular song, this was actually given to me years ago. I want to say over a decade ago by a Russian band called Severovostok. And they wrote to me and that while we were in doing something with Blackmore's Night, and they said, listen, we have this album. We want to put it out. We already have a Russian, our Russian vocalist and the Russian lyrics, and we put it out, but we want you to put your own words to it and to redo the vocals, and we want to put it out on our next album. And I said, let me hear it. And I fell in love with it because it is reminiscent of those prog rock bands and early Tull and I totally got it. I'm like, I love this. And it's not something that comes naturally for me to write musically in that way. It's got that awesome like prog rock vibe. So I said, I'd love to be part of it. And I said, can you just like send me the translation of your Russian words? Because I don't want to go too far, out left field. I want to like really keep it in that same vein, but still like make it something new. And so they sent it to me, and then I just kind of took their main idea and jumped off the deep end with it and made it into When I Want to Fly, still keeping those beautiful like naturesque sort of images and the visuals, as far as the lyrics are concerned. And I recorded it and I sent it back to them, and they lost their record deal and they lost their funding, and I don't even think that they're around anymore as a band. So this particular track sat collecting dust on a shelf for years, over a decade. And when I was putting this out, I'm like, you know what? Let me write to those guys. And if anybody's still around, see if they'll let me put it out on this album because it's too good a song to just, not be heard. And we wrote to the guy who was the main person there who wrote, the original Russian lyrics and who did the music for it. And he said, absolutely put it out. We would love that. So I got the permission from them. So it's like a 50-50 deal where I did the singing and did the lyrics. But that musicality, that's all them. So I can't even take any kind of credit for that. that's what made me fall in love with that song. So yeah, it's one, not a lot of people mention that one except for sort of making it like akin to early Tull. So I'm glad that, that you were drawn to that as well. It's a fun one. I
Yeah,
like that.
it definitely provides another avenue on the with all the stylistic balance on the album. So I guess the last question then is, even with it having been out, of course, Blackmore's not going back on tour. You got the dates coming up. What, a week from Sunday, I think, is the first
Yes.
date on over on the East Coast. Side note, do you find yourself ever being able to get over to the Upper Midwest at any point in the future?
We have done that in the past. Here's the problem. My fabulous guitarist slash husband is 80
Yeah.
now.
Hmm.
Uh, we've got quite a bit of medical and physical ailments and issues to deal with. And in all honesty, seeing how many people in his age group have retired from the industry completely, it's not the moments of stepping on stage. I mean, it's those couple of hours of doing what you do, and it's the most amazing energy, and that's the fun part. It's the traveling where you're sitting. He has back problems and gout, and he had a heart attack a couple of years ago. So he can't really, it's the stress of, and sitting for his back also, of like sitting in a car, in a hotel room, in a plane, cancellations, delays, all of these. That's the problem that gets us to, it's hard to fly places and it's hard to drive for too long, in between. So we're basically at the point right now where wherever we can drive to comfortably, so I can pull over and he can stretch his back, walk around a little bit, do it in his own comfort zone. So we've got, what is it? We do, this year it's Virginia, Delaware, Pennsylvania, New Jersey, and we got a couple in New York, upstate, Tarrytown. Actually, where we got married in Tarrytown, we got married in Castle on the Hudson, beautiful castle there. So we're playing the Tarrytown Theater there. And then we've got cohos upstate, and we bring animal charities wherever we go. We invite the local animal charities to come and collect funds or paper towels and supplies, or just, have people be aware of them so they can volunteer time. Oh my gosh, I think it's in Tarrytown. And one of the places they're bringing a cuddle station, which is going to be difficult for me to tear myself away from. So that show might go on a little bit late, or we might just perform it in the lobby wherever the cuddling is happening. He said to me, "Are you sure that cuddle station isn't like the band cuddle station? It's actually like for animals." And I'm like, our keyboard player would probably love his own cuddle station. I don't know if I want to dangle that carrot in front of that guy's face, but we have a great time on stage. It's so much fun. People get dressed up and they come to the shows, and it's like a costume party wherever we go. It's such positive energy. We take requests from the audience. We change the set list every night. People take vacations from all over the world and just travel wherever we're going, and from Australia, Japan, Canada, like you name it. So if ever there was a time to do a road trip, I would say now's your time.
This would be it. Okay, so instead of to go explore over that way, that's very good. So while you're doing that and everything else, so the last question then is, are you already starting to compose anything else? For whatever project, is any writing happening, or are you just letting all the live performances flow for the time being?
No, we're always working. We always got stuff going on. So we actually have 4 or 5 songs already recorded and done and ready to go into, for the next Blackmore's Night album. This past week, we just wrote another 3. So as soon as we're done with this rung of places where we've got to go and do these amazing shows, we're going to have a great time, but we're going to then fly in the producer, set him up in our dungeon, bar room, basement. Every house should actually have one of those. So it's highly recommended. This is the reason my children will never have any fear, because when you have a dungeon bar room in your house with full-on medieval torture devices hanging on the walls as decor, they're never going to fear anything. We're literally the Addams family at the end of the house, at the end of the driveway for all of our neighbors to talk about. But no, we got a good group here. But so our producer comes downstairs, sets up in the studio, and then we've got another like 4 tracks to work on. Our main concern, not concern, but question in this crazy world of streaming and all the rest of it. And I could ask you actually what you think about this, because you're in the industry and you've got your finger on the pulse. What do you think? Richie said, you know what, we have these 5 songs. Are we better off just putting them out singularly to be able to stream? Or do you do old school and wait for your 10 tracks or 12 tracks to be recorded and compiled? And then, I mean, I know my car doesn't even have a CD player anymore. I know a lot of cars don't. So a lot of people are just streaming stuff, but we're going back to vinyl.
Hmm.
So we get kind of like pulled in two separate directions. So I feel like I should be polling people at this point. And fans, of course, I think will say, just give it to me, whatever you got now. But I don't know, in the industry, like I'm kind of torn between two worlds of, do we put it out what we've got already, singularly, or do you wait for everything to be done, which will probably be done, I would say beginning of next year, so we could get it out by what, like maybe summer of next year? I don't know.
Hmm.
It's tricky. It's tricky.
It's a tough thing to say. I mean, in a purely personal way, even take out being in radio, I tend to prefer the albums because those are their own artistic statements. But on
Yeah.
the other hand, that I mean, I guess it depends on what the audience necessarily wants because they're like I'm also a big Duran Duran fan. They just did a re-recording of one of their songs from the early '80s.
Okay.
Just came out a week ago, and you see people going, fans of the band on one of the main forums going, yeah, gosh, I wish they'd do a whole album instead. Even though they're dripping out these new songs, they're like, but are we ever going to see a new album? Like, okay, so maybe the fans would prefer that. It kind of goes both ways.
You can never really please everybody.
No, but I do like the idea of releasing new music here or there. I think like maybe the perfect balance is some new music here or there because you get to talk about it. On a radio sense, you can say, "Hey, blank act has blank song out. It's out on the streaming platforms. It's out there," and then hold some back for the album so there's some additional appetite or an EP. Not even necessarily doing an album. Maybe a lot of acts are doing the EPs nowadays.
That's a good
So
point.
that might be the balance, I think, is kind of the sense I get among similar acts nowadays.
Thing. I love getting perspective because I'm
Yeah.
always like in here, and Richie actually mentioned an EP too. And by the way, I don't know if you saw it. I took my two backing, my backing singer and amazing rhythm guitarist Jesse Haynes, and my incredible violin player, the Scarlet Fiddler, whose real name is Claire. And the three of us went to go see Nile Rodgers when he opened, and Duran Duran as the main act. And oh my, I mean, literally, I was
Mhm.
video singing every single song. It was amazing. And I actually put that on my Instagram, like girls' night out, Duran Duran.
Oh my
Like,
gosh, I didn't see that because I've seen that. I've seen them when they went over to St. Paul and when it was Chic and Duran Duran on one of their tours. Like, yes, absolutely. Like, well, that makes sense given they worked together. Like,
right.
yeah, that's such. Gosh, talk about like we're talking about acts here that collectively, with some of the prog acts we were just talking about earlier, these acts right here,
Oh,
have gotten a
amazing.
better reputation as time goes along. Like the music was always good. It's more what's the general critical consensus? Like, thanks everyone for catching up to what we knew.
Right, exactly. But you know what I love too? Now these generations that are just starting to discover them have all this music that they can now, like same thing with us. Once they discover us now, I always say we're the most famous band you've never heard of before. So, like we basically get spread word of mouth. And once people discover us, then they have like this whole rung of amazing, like of music where they can go back for. But with bands like that, you go back for generations, for so many like decades and decades and decades, and there's so much to like absorb and discover. And so seeing that like that light and that excitement about rediscovering or discovering a band that's been around for so long, it's that's just amazing. I love seeing the light in people's eyes when they get to do that.
That's really good. Well, I'm glad you guys are doing more new music too. That's the other thing. When there's new stuff that's more artistic creation, and I love it. Glad you did the album as well. Seaglass. Candice, this has been a fun chat. Thank you very
Great
much.
talking to you. Thank you so much. Have a great day. Thank you.
You as well.